Hi, Hannah here from Tula Being Online Yoga Studio. So we're going to use a couple of tools today just to open up our shoulders, and actually it's about building strength and mobility in the shoulders. Specifically, we're going to try and work through the muscles through the back of the arms as well. So if you can, you're going to grab yourself something that's similar to a strap. It does not have to be quite this long, but if possible, you're going to grab something similar to this. This is my yoga strap. It's incredibly long, actually. I've got this in half. And you could just use maybe a cord from your dressing gown, if you got one. And then 2 blocks preferably, or you could use 2 cans, 2 objects, 2 water bottles that are very similar size. So I'm going to do this standing. You could do this part seated. Actually, I'll just leave that for a moment. Let's just start with a little bit of a shoulder roll just to get us a little bit into those shoulder spaces. So I'm going to inhale to rise the shoulders, exhale to soften, inhale to rise, exhale to soften. Just doing it in your own good time. And then we'll swap it over, go in the other direction, up and forwards. One more. And then we'll be grabbing our cord. I'm just going to grab the jingly jangly bit and wrap it around my hand, otherwise it jingles a little bit. And then we're going to go quite long, if you can, on that cord, because you'll want to create a bit of space. So I'm just going to turn myself to the side so you can see the side of my body. We want to lift up, inhale, and then if you've got the space, you will drop down. Now don't worry, if you don't have that space, you're just going to the place where you pause. So just moving nice and steadily, you'll find how wide you need to have the hands on your object. If you don't have this a strap that's long enough, if you happen to have some sort of pole, you could do this exercise with a pole instead, of course. The next exercise that we're doing, the strap again will be useful, but it doesn't need to be quite as long as this at the moment. So thinking about bringing a little bit of breath into your practice here. I like to inhale, rise the arms, and then exhale, lower. Perhaps you could go for 2 more. I'm going to go for 1 more. And then just relaxing through those arms. So I'm going to turn my back towards you, and we're going to hold one end of the strap high and let the rest of it just dangle behind us. And then the other hand is going to come behind and grab hold. Now you don't have to have the hands super close together, just get to a place where you sort of feel somewhat comfortable. And then using your grip, you're going to lift the top hand to lift the bottom hand. And then you're going to pull the bottom hand to drop the top hand. And we'll do this nice and slow. So I'm not aiming to do this fast at all. Lifting the bottom hand and lowering. Now, it might be impossible to do this, but I'm just going to turn to the side. We're going to see if we can avoid arching as we do this. So it might be that you just give yourself a bit more length. And maybe the strap will actually ultimately sort of come forwards a little bit there. If you need that room, that's fine. That top hand may be needed to come further forwards for you. I'm just going to bring my hands a little bit closer together. And that's the space that feels right for me. I'm attempting to not sort of collapse and dip. I'm seeing if I can stay nice and tall through the spine. Just a couple more on this side, and then we'll be swapping those hands over. Maybe you'd like to pause for a couple of breaths just at the bottom or the top. And then just swapping. And then go ahead and just release. Wiggle out the fingers. Take a little pause. So this time I want the other hand to take hold of one end, and then the other hand to take the lower part. I'm just going to swap it over so that the jingle jangle is in the top hand for me. And then again, back and forth, up and down. So don't worry if your hands are much further apart than mine. I'm just going to lift my gaze up again. I'm trying to avoid dropping the chin towards the chest. And there is a bit of a resistance. You're pulling those hands away from one another. And then you're giving control one hand over the other. And keep coming back to your spine. See if you can have the spine nice and neutral. And just a couple more. Maybe you feel a little warmth building in those arms. I certainly can, the shoulders. All right, go ahead and pause one way, either up or down. 2 breaths. And then the other way. And then soften, release. And you can wiggle out through those arms, letting go. This is where we're going to take hold of our blocks. My blocks are particularly heavy. I wouldn't necessarily go straight for these blocks, but you might even have some weights if you're quite used to this kind of sensation. But otherwise, 2 water bottles or really a foam block or a light block is totally fine. You don't need a lot of weight to get into this. I'm going to come into a crescent lunge with my legs. So I've chosen to bring my right foot forwards and the left leg back here. And then I'm going to start to lean forwards so it becomes arrowhead. And then we're going to see if we can do a couple of little pumps here. So I'm going to bring the elbows forwards, bend the elbows forwards and then swing back. Inhale, forwards, exhale, back. So remember with arrowhead, you want to keep a little bit of lower rib connection inwards. Crown of head is edging straight forwards, all the way back to the left heel behind you. And then just check in with your hips. Both hips are the same height. All right, the next time that I reach the arms back behind, we're going to come to pause. And then maybe you could even do a couple of pulses. Lift, 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 and relax. We'll just come through to center. I'm just going to come through to a moment into goddess. Maybe you're okay to balance those blocks on your hands, palms facing up, knees wide, squatting the hips down, toes turning out. One more breath, and then lifting your way up. We'll pivot the other way. So I'm coming into crescent lunge legs. Bending through the left leg now, and then leaning forwards, arrowhead. Gripping onto my blocks or whatever you've got. Inhale, hands come forwards. Exhale, they come back. See if you can come to a nice rhythm with your own breath. Strong legs, little engagement of core. This is our last side. Next time that the arms reach back, we're going to pause and we're going to pulse. Lift, 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 lift. One more time through to goddess. Toes turn out, heels turn in, palms face up. Breathe. 5, 4, 3, maybe lower the hands. 2, and 1. Beautiful. And we're done. Thanks so much for joining. A little bit of strength and mobility for the arms and the shoulders.